I'm not here to bash any specific denomination because I work with multiple denominations teaching on this topic. Everything I'm going to speak to you is through a clinical lens. I'm clinically licensed in 2 states, so these are forms and policies that I do in my own clinical practice. These are things that I am working with other denominations and contracted to help, a residential do the same thing. So in 2026, right, the natural response of an abuse allegation is support the victim, believe the victim. That's not historically been true for the church. Historically, all denominations have protected the church. The reputation of a minister or the perpetrator, while the victim was shamed, publicly character attacked, and ostracized from the only thing in family that they knew. We're entering a new era that can no longer exist, okay? So the question is not, does abuse exist? The question is how your church will respond to it when it comes. That's everything. We can either continue what we're doing and what has been done, or we can learn new things that help protect simultaneously the church and victims. Why should you listen to me? Because this is what I do. For 11 years, I've worked with sex trafficking victims in residentials, and I have worked with child welfare. I've created these forms because I get subpoenaed to court more times than I can actually remember. I'm going back to court again in July to testify. I'm a victim's advocate all day, and I am also clergy advocate because there's a disconnect from what clergy's been taught and what is expected. And I want to help clergy understand how to raise the bar. A few years ago, a storm hit my family, and a storm hits your guys' churches, where there's an allegation and you know the perpetrator, you love the perpetrator, you respect the perpetrator. You also know the victims. Person I loved came forward, admitted that they harmed 2 people that I love. So either I had to be about advocating for victims and holding perpetrators accountable, or I needed to close my business. So out of that storm birthed all of this in supporting clergy. So a couple things I want you to remember, because I'm gonna hit you with a lot of stuff. Your brain's gonna go offline and you're gonna be like, what did she say? Number 1, it is your responsibility to know your state laws for abuse reporting. Ignorance of the law does not protect you from the consequences of breaking the law. You have to know that as a leader. Number 2, transparency has to be the norm. Historically, it's been secret. We'll take care of this, the church will do it, don't worry about it. If there's an allegation, you have to be transparent all the way through. The victim, their family has to be present when you're making the phone calls. You can't do it in secret anymore. The third one is being able to appropriately partner with professionals. Know who your licensed therapists are in your area and know who your lawyers are. You have to partner with these people. I'll even go as far as to say CPAs, because a lot of people that I work with are taking in and they're taking over churches where none of these systems are in place. The more that you do this, the more you actually protect the church, because you're raising the bar, okay? No more secrecy, because whatever is done in secret, Bible talks about what's done in the dark will come out in the light. You need to have a written policy about how to handle abuse. It's gotta be existent. Everyone has to know. Churches are retroactive. They're reactive after the crisis. You have to be ready because the crisis is gonna come. And so how you handle it is different. By the numbers, okay? I'm all about statistics and knowledge and everything. 546,159 children. They are confirmed cases of sexual abuse and neglect in 2023. That's a whole city. That's an entire population of a town. 2,000 children died because of abuse and neglect. 76% perpetrators are known. I'm Gen X. We grew up stranger danger. That's not the truth. It's who you know. It's the pastor, the youth leader, the father, the coach, the uncle, the cousin. It's someone you know that everyone let their guard down and looked the other way and thought, that person would never do it. That's who it is. 6.7 million women have been in domestic violence, intimate partner relationships. 2.8 million men. I've actually gone to court to defend a man who was being abused by his wife, because there's no space for men to come forward and say they've been abused. 30 to 34% people have left organized religion because of the mishandling of abuse cases. That's a big number. Now, I'm going to give you a few more statistics. 1 in 4 girls have been sexually abused as children. 1 in 3 women have lived in domestic violence or experienced domestic violence cases. 1 in 6 boys have been sexually abused. The thing with statistics, it only accounts for cases that have actually been registered. So there are thousands of people who sit in your pews, in your communities, in your outreach, who've never come forward, and they carry this in silence. Trauma-informed care is everything. Now, it is not only legal, it's a biblical responsibility. I love apostolics. I do this all over with other organizations, but I love my people, okay? And we sit and we say we have truth. We have truth if we actually follow the Bible and the law. If we say we have truth and we protect perpetrators and abusers and we silence victims, then we don't have truth. We're complicit with covering up the sin, and we've let evil into the church, and that's not okay, that's not biblical. So speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. We're called to protect the vulnerable. Vulnerable and targeted populations are widows, single mothers, children, fatherless, orphans, foster care, abandoned children. Power dynamics are everything. It is not an immoral act when an adult attacks a child. That's evil. We have to also update. My goal is to help clergy update language that's been really kind of passed down from generation of what is and what isn't into what it really is, because that is trauma-informed care. Now, God holds leaders accountable. The hallmark of Christianity is repentance, self-reflection, and holding people accountable. Those entrusted to shepherd God's people are held to a higher standard. We have to hold that when it comes to people that we know are being alleged. It can't just be, well, they baptized 400 people. There's no way that this allegation of abuse. You have to take it serious and hold people accountable. Everyone can recite stumbling and millstones, but when we silence a victim and says, you did not get abused by that person, that stumbles them from God. They no longer hear God. They don't want nothing to do with anything. That's huge. And there's a lot of therapists who are trying to fix that. And not all therapists are trained in what goes on in organized religion. Let everyone be subjected to the governing authorities. So if we're going to be biblical and we're going to obey the law, that means we obey abuse reporting. Okay? Immediate response. Here's some big things, right? Step 1, someone comes to you and says, hey, my stepdad is doing this. You get forms. I have forms I've created that I'm selling. We have a booth out here. Everything we make, we're going with the Watts to Rwanda. Everything that we make is going to help fund that, so then nobody else has to pay for what we're doing, and we're doing this in Rwanda. But you get the form out, you make the phone call, you have the witness and the family be present while you're calling. You fill the form out, everybody signs the form. You sign it, the family signs it, the witness signs it, the senior pastor signs it. Everybody keeps that form forever. Because you may get called someplace else, then other people go someplace else, and in 10 years somebody comes back and says, I want to sue this person because you did not protect me. And then when you get subpoenaed, you can pull out the form and say, yeah, we did this. We actually signed it. And all the forms that we're using, we use them in our church, I use them in my clinical practice, and I have submitted them to court, so they do work. Document everything. You don't have to be the investigator. You have to let outside people do the investigating, but you do have to log what's said. And you cannot let your emotions or your thoughts, you cannot ask leading questions. Are you sure that that's what he meant to do? Are you sure that's what she said? You cannot lead with that. You just have to take it black and white language. He hit me in the face. He touched me where I should not be touched, and you have to ask clarifying languages, because it and that is not appropriate body language. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to call your church lawyer, and you're going to call your church insurance, because they have to know that there's allegations and what your next steps are, and you're going to follow those instructions. There is a 24-hour rule. If you get told on Tuesday morning about an alleged allegation, you have 24 hours to call DCS. If you don't do that, they're going to ask why. It's a real legitimate thing. Safety and investigation. Part 4, you're going to start safety plans. You're going to start visual logs. This is the next step. Okay, so when the storm came in and hit our family, I learned real quick, a lot of churches don't know this is the next step. Document report numbers. We do visual logs at our church. I will whip it up and just start, yep, they were here. If I'm on vacation, security will call us. Sister Ball, Sister Wilson, someone will text us, hey, this person was here, this person wasn't here, and we log it. Because we don't want someone to say, they were here, and they really weren't. And so my record will match the church record, and then it shows, say, someone lied, or you know what, they were here and security escorted them out. If you don't document, it didn't happen. Documentation's everything. That is golden rule. Remember that if you don't remember anything else. Because when you're in this, your brain will go offline and you'll go in survival mode and you will miss details. Because you can't believe what you're hearing. It's too much. Clinical support. Every single church in here should know who your clinical therapists are in your area. We can't cross state lines. You know, it's bad news for us. We can be reported to the ethical board, so I can only operate where I have privileges. So you need to know who your therapists are and really get to know them, because I am a victim's therapist. I am not a perpetrator's therapist. That's 2 different trainings. So if you're gonna make a recommendation for an individual, man or woman, because they both abuse, who likes and is gratified by raping victims, they have to have a special therapist. It cannot be what I do, because we're 2 different types of therapists. In this process, if there is an allegation, we have to do what everybody else is doing, which is you sit down, they have to take an administrative leave. If there is an allegation of laundering money, molestation, domestic violence, any of these kind of things that are law breaking, you have to sit them down. You don't want them in, and we're in social media, this is gonna be live, right? So you don't want someone who's got an allegation of abuse laying hands on people in the altar. Someone's gonna snatch that up, and someone's gonna repost it. So you sit them down and you document what you did. Where did you put them in a box? How did you keep the victim? And how did you appropriately protect the church? You also have 72 hours. From the time that all this starts, you have 72 hours to have a board meeting with the church. You get your board together and you review, did we follow the policy? What was the loopholes? Where did we mess up? Where did we get it right? What's the next steps? And then also, how are we prepared for the next one? You document everything, because people gonna want that documentation. Communication and follow through. Y'all have to speak with one voice. You assign one person. This one person is going to be the public speaker about what's going on, and you need to negotiate that with your lawyer. You also, if this involves somebody in the church and it's going to be a big deal, you have to have a saints meeting. You got to have a meeting, because you have to have the right narrative, and this is not a cover-up narrative. This is a transparent narrative. This is what we found out. This is what we're doing. This is how we're handling it. Because when there's secrecy, there's room for allegations to turn into something that they're not, because it's not based in evidence. Follow through. Whatever you say, you have to follow through. You know, we had a situation with an individual at our church who I actually really like. Nothing sexual, but, you know, was told, hey, you can't participate with some stuff unless you do therapy. So this is what people do. Everyone's guard goes down, they sneak in. Hey, I want to jump back into this ministry. This person called my husband. Hey, Brother Miller, I want to do this. And he's like, hey, did you talk to the pastoral team and did you do therapy? Do you have proof that you did therapy? Oh, well, you know. He said, well, please go talk back to the leadership, and when you can produce that you've done therapy, we can have a conversation about you joining the security team. You have to follow through with what you put in place. And you want to debrief. You just have to debrief with the board. Like, there's just no way around it. And also, you may have to bring in the district and the headquarters and the different things to show at this level, this is what we did, and we're protecting from further victims, excuse me. What we're gonna do differently moving forward from 2026 into 2027 in the new era is we're gonna cooperate fully with authorities. You have to cooperate with detectives. You have to cooperate with DCS. You also cannot get rid of evidence. There is no deleting of church video, documentation, getting rid of clothing. You have to preserve the evidence, because if you get rid of evidence, you're complicit with covering up sins, and you also put yourself in a situation of being potentially sued and being conspired with it. Number one thing you have to do with victims is you need to thank them. If they come to you and they trusted you to share something with them, you need to thank them. Thank you for trusting me. I don't even know what to do with this, but thank you. It's the greatest phrasing I heard from Sister Ball. I don't even know what to do right now or say. And I just was like, thank you. This right here, if you can say yes to all this with proof, okay? Y'all can take a picture of that. If you can say yes to all this with proof, you have a better shot of showing that you protected simultaneously victims and churches. If you can't say yes to this, then you're gonna get eaten alive by social media. You're gonna get eaten alive by lawyers and judges, because perception and reality are two different things, especially if there's no evidence. It all boils down to also, did you bring in training? Churches who do these kind of trainings, it's a wonderful thing because you keep the language there. So last, faithfulness to the mission. Reporting abuse is not betrayal to the church, it's faithfulness to the mission of the church. Imagine the revival the church body would have if the stance was protecting the church and believing victims. There is not a denomination or a church that would be able to withhold the amount of people who would return to Christianity if the church truly protects the vulnerable and follows biblical belief systems. Thank you for your time. God bless.